Hello everybody, and welcome to my review of Justice League. Come together right now over me. Sorry, I cannot get over how awesome that trailer is, and the song, obviously originally sung by the Beatles, but was then covered by Gary Clark. Anyway, sorry. So Justice League. This is the next installment in the DC Cinematic Universe. It's basically the one that all the DC nerds were waiting for. I'm not a DC nerd, I can't say how close it is to the comics, although I've been following the films for, well, since they've started. And this is the coming together of 6 major characters in the universe. Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg, and together all of them have to, oh, and of course Superman. Spoiler alert, this review will contain spoilers. Spoiler. I mean, come on, we all knew he was going to be back. Anyway, so, and they are being brought together to stop this evil god-like character called Steppenwolf, who's collecting these 3 cube-like things called the Mother Cubes. I know, it's like the Tesseract, isn't it? From Avengers. And he has to get all 3 of them together in order to somehow destroy the world and conquer the world. It doesn't really make much sense, but what the hell, just go with it. And that's pretty much it, and they have to band together to stop him. So yeah, the plot is as basic as you could want. Whether it makes sense is another thing. The movie is directed by Zack Snyder, although I should say that towards the end of the production, Zack Snyder unfortunately lost his daughter. You can read up on all of that yourself, but it's very tragic, what happened to him, of course. So I won't be going full out on Zack Snyder in this review, because obviously, you know, you've got to be respectful to that. So that's very sad. So Joss Whedon, who was also involved as a writer, he basically picked up the directing reins towards the end in post-production, just to finish the last few bits off of this movie. And I believe actually the film was a lot longer originally in its first cut, but it was cut right down to size. This movie's 2 hours long, which I was so thankful for. I mean, if it was any longer, unintentionally got cut off there. As I said, I would have been really worried if it was any longer. I think it was like 2.5 hours originally, or 2 hours 45, but they cut it right down, so I'm glad about that. So, Justice League. This is a movie that a lot of people have been waiting for a long time. And how is it? In my opinion, it's good. Yeah, it's decent. I don't think it's fantastic by any means, but I certainly enjoyed myself watching this film. It's perfectly fine. I want to give a quick shout out actually, because when I was in the cinema screen, I was waiting for the film to start, and I decided to message my good friend and subscriber Alan Kalo, and I discovered that he was also going to be going to see the movie. I mean, where he is in America, so there's a time difference. It was like 3 or 4 a.m. where he was, and it was like 20 to 12 where I was. So I just thought, you know what, I'll message him. I didn't know it was that time at the time. But he saw it on the same day as me, obviously, with the time difference later on. So I hope Alan enjoys the movie, and if you get a chance, check out his review, because he's a great guy. There's amazing reviews. Yeah, I like Justice League. I thought it was fun. It was fun. I certainly like it. I mean, let's face it, it's all about the characters. Much like Avengers Assemble, it's all about those characters and bringing them together. Although, unlike Marvel, they haven't set up everything as I think they wanted to. I think DC have always tried to play catch-up with Marvel in that sense, in that they haven't really got time to set everybody up. So far, the universe has consisted of Man of Steel, which I didn't like. I'm sorry, I didn't like it. If you like it, that's fine, but I didn't. Batman vs Superman, which was okay. I don't know why that was so hard to say. It was okay. Suicide Squad, which was a little bit better, but it was still just okay. So yeah, the first 3 movies were really disappointing. And then we got the magnificent Wonder Woman. And I own that one. That is the only one of the DCU that I own, because it is the only good one. Well, until now. It is the truly great film of the DCU. And, you know, what Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot did with that movie was amazing. Right off the bat, you're not going to get a movie like that with this. I think it's a perfectly fine film. It's perfectly entertaining. It's fun. But it's not anything remarkable, which is what was really struck me when I watched it. Was I thought, why am I not loving this? Why am I not seeing? There's no sense of scale with this movie. Everything feels so quiet. Not in the sense that the movie's quiet, but in the sense that it's not as big as I thought it was going to be. I thought, oh, that's a bit strange. I mean, there's big action sequences and there's a lot of action and stuff, and it's great fun in that respect. But you don't get this, like you did with the Avengers, when Avengers Assemble came around. You didn't feel that sense of, like, togetherness, like, yes, they finally got together. I didn't feel that. Maybe it's because I'm not a DC fan, but I didn't feel like, when these characters got together, I didn't feel like that sense of, yes, right, let's go. I was like, cool, cool. Everything felt kind of downplayed, which was a bit bizarre. I mean, the movie kind of opens with showing the different characters separately and trying to get them coming together. I mean, obviously, the new ones which we haven't seen yet are, of course, Cyborg and Aquaman. Cyborg, I thought, was really interesting. I thought, let's get this out of the way. The characters are the best thing in the movie. Cyborg is a great character. At times, the CGI does look quite obvious on him. It's very easy to tell that he's pretty much completely digital. I mean, the actor tries and he gives his best. Who's the actor that plays him? Let me just check that for you. Cyborg, Ray Fisher, who plays him. Yeah, so good one, Ray. Of course, you have the other new character, which is the Flash, played by Ezra Miller, or Barry Allen, as they call him. He's got an interesting story. His story is probably the least interesting out of all of them. Like, he's got some... they don't really make enough out of his story. He's got... They mentioned that his dad was in prison for murdering his mum. Yeah, it's kind of confusing as to how he's still, like, got a relationship with his dad, really, because, I mean, I'm not a fan of the comics, so I wouldn't know. If anybody knows this, then let me know in the comments. But it just seems a bit odd that he would just be all right with his dad if his dad killed his mum. Like, what? It's like, I didn't get that. But Ezra Miller is good, and he's pretty much the comedic relief for this movie. Because previously, the movies have been very serious. I mean, Wonder Woman had its moments of light relief, but it wasn't centrally comedic, like, say, Thor Ragnarok, which is centrally comedic. I think because DC and Marvel are kind of polar opposites at the moment. Like, DC are going darker, Marvel are going lighter, which is a bit surprising in a way. So I think DC want to try and make something that's a bit more well-rounded. Like, they wanted to inject a bit of fun into Justice League, and I think they have with Ezra Miller, and he's good. And there are a couple of moments when I did crack up at his jokes. So he did a good job, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in Fantastic Beasts 2. Ben Affleck returns as the Batman. He's fine, he's good. He doesn't really go on any sort of major journey in this movie. There's no sort of great character arc with him, which is surprising. I mean, there's a moment when him and Wonder Woman have a bit of tension, because, spoiler alert, he mentions Steve Trevor, which I thought was very interesting, and how he provokes Wonder Woman in that way. It's interesting how this movie does continue after Wonder Woman, in that Diana's story, played brilliantly by Gal Gadot, how she's kind of struggling emotionally with the death of Steve Trevor, even still to this day, because she's been living on Earth, well, in Gotham for God knows how long, for many years, and she's basically shut herself away, and now she's opening up again. I thought that was really interesting how they developed her character, and I thought she was pretty much the best character in the movie. She was the best performance. I'm not just saying that because she's a woman, and I'm not just saying that because she is gorgeous. My goodness, what a gorgeous woman. And I'm sure she is a lovely woman. I'd love to meet her one day. Maybe that'd be great, because I think she's fantastic, and I think she's definitely inspired a new sort of wave in film and TV and the media because of Wonder Woman, the film, but also the character, and now she's in this as well. And yeah, so, and obviously you have Superman as well. He's in the movie. Now, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, but he died in Batman vs Superman. Well, good, lucky enough for you guys, they bring him back to life. Although, I thought they were going to do it much sooner than they did, which is surprising. He got some screen time, but not as much as I thought. I didn't understand why he was attacking everybody when he, you know, he clearly hasn't lost his memory. I thought he had at first, and that's what they were going for. But then as soon as he sees Lois Lane, it's like, oh, I remember now. I mean, he doesn't say that, but it's like, what? There are little things. This is my beef with Zack Snyder. There are little things from a storytelling point of view that don't make sense. It's not as bad here as it was in Batman vs Superman. Don't get me wrong, or Man of Steel. But I mean, sometimes the guy just struggles to tell a good story. I mean, this is a basic story, but there are just little things that he needed to tighten up. Again, I'm not going to hold it against him. You know, he tried his best, and obviously the personal issues that he had with his family obviously would have affected it. So that's fine, and you know, I hold my hand up and say, dude, you gave it your best shot. I don't rate Zack Snyder as a director, but in terms of a visual director, he's good. But yeah, although I did feel the visuals for this movie were kind of iffy. Parts of them were fine, but parts of them were just kind of like, it's like a video game. I've kind of seen it all before, really. I thought the Aquaman was cool. Jason Momoa, he was pretty good, and I think he's well cast. And I'm looking forward to his film. I think that would be an interesting film. If they can do it like they did with Wonder Woman, then I think that would be great, because it could be a similar story. I don't think it will be as good as Wonder Woman, obviously, because it's, you know, it's not going to be such a huge game changer. Obviously, Jeremy Irons, Diane Lane, Amy Adams, J.K. Simmons, they're all like the supporting cast, and they all do a good job. They do a good job. The other person to mention is J.K. Simmons. He's in the movie as Commissioner Jim Gordon. I mean, he only features as a cameo, but he's good. I was like, wow, it's nice to see him in a movie. He was also in that film, The Snowman, which came out recently. I mean, not a pretty bad movie, but he did a pretty good English accent for that, and now he's doing his normal voice. So yeah, the movie's fun. It's not too long. It does take its time in the beginning, trying to get these people together. Not that the Avengers Assemble didn't. But it felt a bit more natural in that movie. This movie, it feels kind of like, we got to forcefully get this person, we got to get this person. But there are certainly a lot of interesting things. Like I said, the characters, it's all about the characters. And Cyborg's story, I thought, was very emotional. I liked his story. I would have liked to have seen a whole film about that, but maybe they'll probably do that at some point. Although they probably don't need to, because they've explained it in this movie, more or less. And he's got another relationship with his father as well. So there's a lot going on individually, and when they come together, it's great. It's great. And I do have to say though, the action climax, most of the action is all fine, and it's great. It's great fun. But the action climax kind of wraps itself up very quickly. It's like, oh, that's it? Oh, shame. You can tell the movie's been messed around with in post, which is a slight bother, really. And I did feel like they kind of forced Amy Adams into the movie. I know, obviously, because of the whole Superman coming back to life thing, she kind of had to be there, but it didn't feel natural. It felt very forced. And the scene between her and... although I did like the scene between her and Diane Lane at the beginning. I thought that was good. And I'm glad that they didn't include Perry White. They didn't need to. They didn't need to include him. The music is alright. It doesn't really make any impact at all. And I'm really glad that Jesse Eisenberg isn't in the movie, because that was a bad move, casting him as Lex Luthor. It's a fun movie. Visually, it's kind of all over the place, but it sort of works and it sort of doesn't. You can tell so obviously that it's green screened and in places anyway. And most of the performances are great. I just think that what they needed, like what Avengers had, was a a lot of tension between the characters. In Avengers Assemble, there was a lot of tension between all those characters. In this one, there's a bit of tension, but then they just kind of brush it off. It's like, come on guys, just go further. Go further. It needed to be more dramatic. I mean, it was a fun romp, what can I say? But and it will keep the DC fans happy. And it is way better than Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and Suicide Squad combined. It is way better than those movies. It's not as good as Wonder Woman, but I didn't think it was going to be. So I'm really glad that it is actually as good as it is, really, because it's nothing to complain about whatsoever. I mean, there's a few problems. It's a flawed movie, but you know what? It's good. I guess I should mention the villain, the antagonist, Steppenwolf, Ciaran Hinds. He does a good job, although I find the villain to be absolutely nothing. He is just nothing. There was a pretty entertaining sequence when he goes on to, we first see him on the Amazonia island where Diana comes from, and he steals the first mother box, and that was a good scene, and I liked Ciaran Hinds' voice, but he's just a nothing villain. We don't really understand his motivations. He's just like, oh, I want to take over the world. It's like, oh, how many times have we seen that before? What the hell? I mean, it's not very good. They needed to, at least with Loki, he was mischievous. There was more of a character about him. I didn't find there was much of a character with Steppenwolf. I really didn't. I mean, yes, Avengers Assemble wasn't perfect. It definitely had, in terms of Loki's motivation, revenge on Thor, but also, because he couldn't take Asgard, he thought, okay, I'll take Earth. So that was clear. You could understand that. You could understand why he was doing what he was doing in Avengers Assemble. But in this, I've never seen this guy before, Steppenwolf. We don't know anything about him. And, I mean, even though we get the backstory, he's just, he just wants to conquer the world. But why? Why? Come on, you can go further with it. You can go further. But you know what? If you're prepared to just sit back, and enjoy the fun action, then you will like this movie. There's a pretty cool opening fight with Wonder Woman in, I think is it London? I'm not sure exactly, or is it in Gotham? I can't remember where she is, but she's somewhere. And then she comes into this, it's like a big building, and she fights off all the guards, and she saves all these civilians who are being sort of held off at gunpoint. So that was cool. It's a fun action romp, but it's not going to change the film industry or anything. It's not going to change the DCU like Wonder Woman did. But it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. So I'm going to score Justice League a solid 7 out of 10.
One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me.
I don't think I'll see it again. I don't think it's worth a second viewing. Wonder Woman was, because that just blew me away. That took my breath away, that movie. And if I were to rank this among the DC movies, it would probably be second. I rank it second. I mean, it is good. It is a major improvement over the first 3 films that we had, which which weren't particularly good at all. I may review Suicide Squad at some point. I haven't reviewed that one yet. I don't know why. Then I would have reviewed all the DC Cinematic Universe movies. But anyway, so that's my review of Justice League. Stay tuned for future reviews. I am actually going to probably review more of the Marvel movies now. I'm going to review Avengers Assemble now that I've reviewed Justice League. I think it's a good time to go and comparatively review Avengers Assemble, which will also mean reviewing Avengers Age of Ultron. And I'll also review the Iron Man trilogy, because I haven't done that yet. So anyway, thank you guys all for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.